It's time for a brief history of the United States of America. Hi, boys and girls, ready to get started? Once upon a time, there were these people in Europe called pilgrims, and they were afraid of being persecuted. So they all got in a boat and sailed to the New World where they wouldn't have to be scared ever again.
Oh, I'm so relaxed. I feel so much safer.
But as soon as they arrived, they were greeted by savages, and they got scared all over again. So they killed them all. Now, you'd think wiping out a race of people would calm them down, but no. Instead, they started getting frightened of each other. Witch! So they burned witches. In 1775, they started killing the British so they could be free. And it worked, but they still didn't feel safe. So they passed a Second Amendment which said every white man could keep his gun. I loves my gun. Loves my gun. Which brings us to the genius idea of slavery. You see, boys and girls, the white people back then were also afraid of doing any work. So they went to Africa, kidnapped thousands of black people, brought them back to America, and forced them to work very hard for no money. And I don't mean no money like I work at Walmart and make no money. I mean $0. Nothing. Not a zip. Doing it that way made the USA the richest country in the world. So did having all that money and free help calm the white people down? No way. They got even more afraid. That's because after 200 years of slavery, the black people now outnumbered the white people in many parts of the South. Well, you can pretty much guess what came next. The slaves started rebelling. There were uprisings, and old master's heads got chopped off. And when white people heard of this, they were freaking out and going, I want to live. Don't kill me, big black man. Well, just in the nick of time came Samuel Colt, who in 1836 invented the first weapon ever that could be fired over and over without having to reload. And all the southern whites were like, yeehaw! But it was too late. The North soon won the Civil War and the slaves were freed. Yep, they were free now to go chop all the old master's heads off. And everybody was like, oh no, we're gonna die. But the freed slaves took no revenge. They just wanted to live in peace. But you couldn't convince the white people of this. So they formed the Ku Klux Klan. And in 1871, the same year the Klan became an illegal terrorist organization, another group was founded, the National Rifle Association. Soon politicians passed one of the first gun laws, making it illegal for any black person to own one. It was a great year for America, the KKK and the NRA. Of course, they had nothing to do with each other, and this was just a coincidence. One group legally promoted responsible gun ownership, and the other group shot and lynched black people. And that's the way it was all the way to 1955, when a black woman broke the law by refusing to move to the back of the bus. White people just couldn't believe it. Well, I won't say move. What's going on? Man, all hell broke loose. Black people everywhere started demanding their rights, and white people had a major freaky fear meltdown. And they were all like, run away! Run away! And they did. They all ran fleeing to the suburbs where it was all white and safe and clean. And they went out and bought 250 million guns and put locks on the doors, alarms in the houses, and gates around the neighborhoods. And finally, they were all safe and secure and snug as a bug. And everyone lived happily ever after.
What if black governments invaded white countries and stole all of their resources after presenting the inhabitants with Bibles and death? What if black groups and mobs kidnapped and took millions of white people into slavery and killed millions of them by throwing them overboard to sharks? What if the surviving white people were enslaved for hundreds of years and were subsequently raped, sodomized, hung, whipped, had their children taken away and sent far away and forced to eat pig slop? What if white babies were snatched away while their mothers worked in the fields and used by black men as bait to hunt and catch alligators? What if white women were taken from their husbands and children in the middle of the night by her black slave master and was forced to sleep with him and carry his child in her womb for 9 months, and her husband could do nothing but stand helplessly by or be killed? What if white men had to face the black man who raped his wife and daughters and told this white man that his wife better pretend like she enjoyed it or she would be beaten within an inch of her life? What if white women were forced to breastfeed the children of black women while her own children cried in the distance with no one to hold and feed? What if white men had to bow down to a black man and beg them not to sell their families to other black slave masters who lived thousands of miles away, knowing that he would never see them again? What if white women were forced to work in the fields in the hot sun all day long just after giving birth to a baby and not allowing her to rest or heal or even being allowed to nurture her newborn child? What if a pregnant white woman was hung upside down from a tree by an angry black mob and had her belly cut open with a knife so that her infant's body would hit the ground, and she bled and cried while watching an angry black man crush her baby's head with his boots, and saw this man start to bellow with laughter as she grieved this violent murder of her child, and then took her last breath before she too died from the brutal capturing? What if white men, women, and children were stopped if seen walking on the roads and asked, "Show me your papers, wiggers"? What if white families were accosted while sleeping in their beds in the middle of the night by angry black mobs on horses and hoods with fire torches demanding that they leave town or be burned alive? What if white families were systematically terrorized on a daily basis by black mobs burning crosses in their front yards with the full support of all black police departments? What if white churches were burned to the ground by hateful, angry black men with no regard to the human life in the killing of 4 little white girls? What if angry, hateful black men hunted whole white families and hung them all from trees, including their white children? What if little white girls were forced to have sex with hateful, angry, adult black males before their little bodies could even bear such brutal treatment? What if black women screamed rape if a white man simply looked at her and caused black men to go on a rampage and kill this white man in an angry mob style? What if black women forced white women to clean, cook, wash, scrub, dig, dust, and slave all day with no breaks to take care of her little white children, and would whip her if she dared question any of her duties as a white slave? What if black women smacked the hell out of a white woman for merely asking for a break to go and breastfeed her white infant who has been crying for hours unattended? What if black horse riders would tie a white man's legs each to one horse and force the horses to run in different directions, thus ripping his body into 2 pieces, and rolled away laughing and mocking at his dismembered dead corpse? What if black angry mobs went into white neighborhoods and killed hundreds of white people while burning their houses, businesses, churches, hospitals, and banks to the ground, totally unprovoked? What if black countries stole all of the resources from white countries, causing them to live impoverished lives while planting diseases in their communities through tainted food, aid, and medications and vaccines laced with deadly diseases and viruses? What if white children were buried in the sand with only their heads sticking out, and deranged black men came with full force, kicking this white child's head so hard that it separated from their little bodies? What if white children were not taught their true history in schools taught by black teachers who supported the black supremacist agenda of keeping white people down? What if black news media, movies, advertisements, and publications always portrayed whites as low-life scum that had no real moral values, thus lowering the self-esteem of white children? What if black people changed what really took place in history to hide things from white people because they knew they could better control white people with false, made-up history, and they knew that because they as black people controlled the printing of all materials for centuries, it would make it easier to deceive white people about their true history?